Hello, this is Morgan Negele and Alison Fogarty, and this is our Translanguaging lesson plan. We decided to focus on third grade for this lesson plan, and our subject areas are ELA and science. And this lesson will actually take place over a few days. We are aiming for about an hour a day over the course of 3 days, just to give the students enough time to properly prepare for their presentations.
The home languages in our class is English, Spanish, and Mandarin. And for our EL levels, we have students at both the emerging and bridging levels. And their needs for IEPs, we have one student with a learning disability for dyslexia, and we have 3 students who are identified as GATE.
As for the materials and technology we'll be needing for this lesson, we will need the book What a Waste by Jess French, and then we have other books for the students to use, El Viaje de Papelote by J.S. Pineos, Plástico no es fantástico, which means plastic is not fantastic in Spanish, by Kayla Swope, and Toby Turtle and the Underwater Crew, but this is actually written in Mandarin, by Michelle Morgan. And students will need Chromebooks, a projector, and then we will let them use Google Slides or any other type of presentation format they want to use, PowerPoint or Prezi.
Our concept that we want the students to attain for the whole lesson is that students will be able to create a program and or solution to an environmental issue at school and present it in front of their peers. So this is the main idea that we want our students to gain out of our lesson.
Our lessons focus on 2 standards, the first being our ELA standard 4A, which is report on a topic or text, tell a story or recount an experience with appropriate facts and relevant descriptive details, speaking clearly at an understandable pace. Plan and deliver an informative explanatory presentation on a topic that organizes ideas around major points of information, follows a logical sequence, includes supporting details, uses clear and specific vocabulary, and provides a strong conclusion. So like Alison said, they will be presenting and creating a project about an environmental issue, which aligns with our NGSS standard 3.5 ETS 1 through 2. Generate and compare multiple possible solutions to a problem based on how well each is likely to meet the criteria and constraints of the problem.
Our objectives for the lesson, for our content objectives, it is that students will be able to distinguish the difference between recycling, reducing, and reusing, as well as understand what eco-friendly systems are. Students will be able to give examples of each and will use these terms to guide them as they plan their projects and presentations. So we will do this through reading a book with the students called What a Waste. As a class, students will interact in an interactive read aloud with that story, and while we read, we will be going over vocabulary words that they see in the book and give a lot of opportunities for students to turn and talk with partners to talk about what they see in the book, such as things as recycling and reusing and how those benefit our earth and are eco-friendly. And then students will later be presenting what they've learned, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And for our language standard or objective, students will be able to orally present information about an environmentally friendly program that they developed. Students will be able to speak loudly and clearly. Students will be able to ask and answer questions with their peers. So again, when we do that turn and talk, students will be asking questions and talking about what they heard in the book and the different vocabulary words. And then again, they'll be presenting their information that we'll talk about.
Now, for our translanguaging objectives, we wanted to give the students as many opportunities to use their full metalinguistic repertoire. So we will have the students research several environmental programs and solutions in either their primary language or English, just so that way they have equitable access to the information and they're able to use that later in their presentations. We also will allow our students to write project outlines and notes in their primary language or in English, just so that way they understand what their notes are saying. It doesn't really matter if we understand them, just because the students are the ones using them, not us, and this will just really help them as they create those final presentations with their partners.
For our biliteracy skills, we have that students will work in pairs to develop a presentation using both academic and non-academic language. So when they're talking about what they're going to do, they're going to be using the non-academic language, like social language, talking, and students will be using academic language in their actual presentation when they're presenting it to the class. Our next one, students will be exposed to vocabulary utilizing text and visuals prior to the lesson. So again, when we are reading that book, What a Waste, it talks about a lot of the vocabulary listed right below here. And we will have lots of opportunities for students to talk about it with whole group and with partners. And cognates will be used in explanation as appropriate. So as words that come up that have cognates in students' home languages, we will be explaining those to students.
And of course, as we present this vocabulary, we'll just make sure to support our students through visuals and multiple definitions, just to ensure that they really understand the vocabulary so that they are able to utilize it in their presentations. We're really excited to see how well our students do in this project-based learning, and we look forward to having them use their translanguaging skills. Thank you. Thanks for listening to that. And for our assessment, we will be using informal assessment throughout the entire little mini unit, because we'll be monitoring our students and supporting them as they work individually and with their partners, just to check for understanding, whether that's us just coming up to them and asking them maybe what a vocabulary word means, or asking them to share their work, just to ensure that they're on the right path. Then for our formal assessment, we will be assessing, first of all, the content included in their presentation, but second of all, how well they do speaking in front of their peers. We'll be looking to ensure that students are speaking clearly, they're giving their information in a sequential pace and order, and that they're incorporating key details from the research that they've done individually and the research we've done together in class to support their ideas. We will have a formal rubric for this final presentation that will be given to students at the very beginning of this mini unit, just so the students understand what we'll be looking for and they can prepare accordingly. And we want to give the students a chance to kind of self-assess afterwards. So we'll have some guiding questions that they can journal in whichever language they prefer, just so they can kind of reflect on how well they did, what they want to improve on for next time, and they'll be able to look back at that at the end of the year.
So the texts that we'll be using are the ones we mentioned above in the materials. So when we use What a Waste, that will be the interactive read aloud that we read to the whole class. And then we do have those 3 books underneath for students who speak those other languages. And when students are creating their presentations in partners, they will be conducting research on different ways that we can, as a community, help our earth, such as recycling, building gardens, composting, all those other activities. And so when students are conducting research, they can use these books in any language that we have to conduct their research. And also when they research online using their Chromebooks, they will be allowed to find any articles in any language that helps them understand the content and use it in their presentation when they present their findings.
Students have been able to look at all of these wonderful diverse texts as well as information online. Their final project and presentation that we have been referring to is just a project that they're creating specifically designed for our school. So whether our school maybe doesn't have a recycling program in place, our students could create a recycling program and explain specifically why it would be beneficial in our school. They could do the same thing. Maybe our school doesn't have a community garden, the benefits of that, and then having them just use all of these different resources to back up their understanding. So they'll be looking at the NGSS standards as well as all of the other English language arts standards we're looking for, specifically with public speaking, to support them and ensure that they create a final project that is beneficial to the school, but also provides them with the experience that they need to be successful speakers in the classroom. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please let us know.